patch notes. Let's read them. Patch 9.08. Updates to Yoru's Fake Out, Gekko abilities, and Sunset new TDM map glitch. Let's take a look. So we're coming to episode 9, Act 3, and yeah, let's just dive in, shall we? So this is kind of the little thing, but we'll get into the specifics because that's what we're here for. We start with Gekko. So as you've mastered Gekko's utility since the last buff, we've noticed that his core play pattern of using and reclaiming his buddies has little to no downside. These changes to his globules put pressure on Gekko to be more quickly reclaim them, and also allow for counterplay for Gekko's opponents. Dizzy and Wingman are each getting improvements to their overall reliability to reduce cases where you hear or see them target and debuff an enemy, only to find that an enemy is ineffective. These changes are targeted at addressing inconsistent behavior rather than a direct power increase. Dizzy is in a healthy state in terms of how often you successfully engage, but we feel that Dizzy holds space and angles for too long. Additionally, given Gekko's overall number of plants and diffuses with Wingman, Thrash is available too frequently for its impact. We hope these changes don't wildly affect Gekko's place in the ecosystem, but instead put him in a healthier long-term place. So the globules reduce time in world from 20 seconds to 15 seconds, and reclaim time increased from 1 to 1.5. So the reduced time in world means that you'll only get 15 seconds now to reclaim them instead of 20 like it was before, which won't affect a ton, I don't think. You know, it'll have some impact some of the time, but I think still 15 seconds most of the time should be long enough to get them back anyway, in most circumstances, I would say. But the reclaim time increased from 1 to 1.5. This is a big change. Because, of course, it used to be 2, and then they went from 2 to 1, and that was kind of the big buff that really, you know, got Gekko kind of going, I would say. This is you know, I mean, the time, if you think about it in percentage terms, right, this is a big increase. I still think it'll be mostly fine, but again, it will impact, of course, some of the time. These two changes will definitely you know, make it a bit more clunky than it is. I think these are good changes overall. Let's keep going. Dizzy time active after being thrown and forming is reduced from 1.5 to 1 second. Ooh, Dizzy targeting algorithm has been updated to be more reliable. Okay, and its flash now also blinds the mini-map of affected players. Okay, so like small little tiny changes here, but this one is definitely significant. We'll have to see how that actually feels and plays. But again, if you think about it in terms of like a percentage, right? Like this is quite a that one feels quite big actually. Okay, Wingman. Increase the angle of the cone concuss area 45 degrees to 65 degrees. So if you watched the 2G versus M80 game, they already were on this patch apparently. This makes sense. I understand what they're saying here with, like, you know, what they were saying at the top. Because often you would get the Wingman, and I'm sure you've experienced this in your games, where the Wingman would go off and he would clap, potentially stun them, but they wouldn't be stunned because the angle, you know, was too small. Essentially, so that's probably what this is. You know, that basically when Wingman actually goes off and you know, hear it go off, they're much more likely to be stunned because the angle is bigger. And when Wingman turns into a globule after planting the spike, there are unique visuals. Okay, and Thrash has gone from 7 to 8. Okay, so how bad is Gekko now? I mean, this is justified, by the way. Like, I don't think anyone will complain with this one. I think that feels absolutely fine. I still think that Gekko is good. The main reason I still think Gekko will be good is now that people know how to actually play Gekko, like, having util up every 10 seconds is just good. You might need to be better at Gekko than people are right now to get good use out of him. Like, you know, you actually need to, you know, be reclaiming the orbs, you know where to throw them because, you know, there's less time and, you know, it takes longer to pick up. So you'll need to, like, know, oh, this is a Wingman lineup where, you know, I know it will be safe, etc. So you might need to be better at Gekko, but I think if you are already good at Gekko, then hopefully it won't be too big of a deal. But let's move on. Yoru. So this is about Yoru's fake out and just making sure that they interact properly with the fake out. So this isn't like a big change or whatever, but this is just, yeah, making it so that things like Gekko's Dizzy, Arcros, you know, reveal him as if he was a real agent, you know, voice lines playing on the fake out. You know, neural theft will show the fake out clone. Actually, that is it. That one's quite funny. And of course, map updates. Now let's come to this. So glitch is a new TDM map. This is I think, what is it? A mix of Sunset and Haven, is it? Or, yeah, I think that's what it is. Just judging by the map here. A cold Haven, it looks like there. You know, we'll have to see. The last TDM map that they brought out was awful, so hopefully this one isn't awful. Map rotations. Okay, Pearl and Split are back in, and Icebox and Lotus are out. Let's talk about this very quickly then. So I was thinking about this in terms of like, what agents is this good for? What, you know, agents is it bad for? All that kind of stuff. In general, this is good for us all because Icebox is a terrible map. And whilst Pearl, you know, I still have some reservations and everyone will get back to hating B-Long on Pearl, it's better than Icebox, and that's for sure. And Split and Lotus are both pretty good. But in terms of agents and what agents this is good and bad for. In terms of the bad, I think there's a few agents that are getting hit pretty hard. One of them is Killjoy. I think Killjoy is probably the biggest one here because you're looking at Icebox and Lotus as, you know, two Killjoy maps essentially, you know, or heavy Killjoy maps. You're looking at Pearl and Split, and whilst I'm sure Killjoy will see some play on Pearl, I think these days maybe Cypher might see a bit more play than Killjoy does on Pearl, to be honest. And Split obviously is not a Killjoy map, so Killjoy I think is a big loser. There are also some other smaller losers like Fade obviously for Lotus, Sage obviously for Icebox being kind of Sage's primary map. Certain agents like Viper, Omen, Sova are all slightly losing out here because, you know, for instance, Viper and Sova, Icebox is like 100% map. Pearl and Split, like Pearl is a map where, you know, Viper Sova could see some play, but not necessarily 100%. Same for Omen on Lotus, where, you know, Lotus is 100% Omen. You know, Split and Pearl, and we'll get to the winners, but I think Astra is the main winner of this, right? The Astra will be meta on Pearl, was before, definitely will be now. And even on Split, Astra, of course, did see play back in the day. So I think that Astra is kind of the big winner of this. In terms of some other winners, I thought Yoru is another big winner of this. Again, Icebox, Lotus, two maps that you don't really see a ton of Yoru on. But on Pearl and Split, we did see Yoru on Split from teams like Fnatic last year. And back when Pearl was in the meta as well, we did see Yoru from teams like EG. I think Yoru is a bit of a winner from this. And then finally, maybe Sky is a slight winner as well, of course, because Split is, you know, one of perhaps Bind and Split are kind of the two maps where, you know, people might actually still consider playing Sky. Okay, then of course we've got these sunset changes. Now, we've already been through these before, but just quickly, if you haven't ever seen these and what's going on, well, here we go. The main goal of these changes, of course, was to get rid of the B main post plant spam. One way you do that is don't give them this kind of box to hide behind, right, and peek out from either side. That makes sense, so that's gone. And this is the new B main, which seems like it would be a little harder for defenders to fully contest this now. I mean, you could create a little double, you know, swing from these two, I guess. Obviously, the main thing was the post plant here, so this was the before, this is the after. This is changing the Cypher tripwires across here, I think, a little bit. It does create for the attackers, I think, a little harder to get out because, you know, when you get out here as the attackers, now you have a straight, you know, two-way. There could be a defender on either side. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, we've got safe plant spots here on the site, and generally, obviously, the idea of these changes is to make you kind of plant on the site. You know, give you some extra angles to, you know, potentially play with. They've extended this out as well here, as you can see. You know, again, like adding boxes here, you know, allowing you to, you know, again, just play a post plant on site, basically, is what it seems that they want you to do. They've also changed how these boxes work. This one I actually didn't know, but okay. I guess that creates kind of multiple angles here then, right? Because you could be on this box or you could be on the slightly raised one here as well. And then in mid as well, they added this little box here, changed this slightly perhaps to give you a bit more of a place to hide for the defenders as well. And I think that is that. So that is the patch notes. I think, you know, Sunset, we'll have to see how that plays. I think, I mean, it can't get any worse. This has to be good. I think the map rotations, I prefer the maps that are coming in than the ones that are going out. So that's good for me. I think, you know, new TDM map, we'll see. And yeah, the Gekko changes, I can agree with to an extent. I hope it's not too much. You know, I'm a little worried it might be a bit too much for Gekko, considering where Gekko is. But hopefully that is that. And yeah, that's the patch.